Hey parents, as we set up the savings and investment accounts for our children, it's vital that we structure them right to ensure we don't lose chunks of the compounded money to tax in future. I am no tax expert, so I thought we'd chat to our great friend and tax expert, Tas Demos from BDHL Advisory, especially in the wake of the recent CGT tax changes. Tas, thank you so much for taking time out to talk to Future Funded Bubs today.
Brady, it's always a pleasure.
First of all, can you run us through the recent CGT changes that the tax came out? I have no idea, and a lot of people have no idea what this means for us. So can you please explain it?
Yeah, look, the thing that changed in the budget was that 50% capital gains tax discount has been totally scrapped. And replacing that is an inflation indexation system. So what it effectively means is that you'll be taxed on your real gains above inflation. And what they've also done, the second thing they've also done is they've introduced a 30% minimum tax on net capital gains. So the minimum amount that you're going to be paying on any capital gains that you derive from shares, property, or any other investments that you have will be 30%. Now, all this is coming into play from the 1st July 27. So this has all got to get through Parliament. I don't think that'll be an issue. Legislation's already out as we speak. So it's probably just a matter of getting through the House of Reps and then the Senate before
Right.
this is all.
For our investment purposes,
Yep.
what does this mean? So I'm building Freddie's future funds.
Yep.
What does this imply in future?
Look, Freddie's not even one yet, close to it. You need to be focusing, and this is where you need to sort of focus on assets that are going to, and shares that are going to be growth type of assets, as opposed to dividend type of shares, and we'll talk about that in a second, I suppose. So you've got a long-term horizon. There's 18 years before you can sort of access that, if that's what your wishes are, or even more. So you're going to be focusing on growth assets and growth shares.
Absolutely. Now, the setup for a child's account is really important because you can get taxed beyond belief from what I've read so far. So 66% for income over $416. That is just absolutely insane. How do we set it up and why is this the case?
Well, let's go back. The reason why it's like this is because the tax office does not want you to be putting assets into children's name and therefore being taxed at lower rates. So the tax rates are quite prohibitive. If a child or a minor under the age of 18 earns more than $416, they get taxed at 66%, up to $1,300. Once it hits the $1,300 mark, it gets taxed at 45%. So at the end of the day, what you will be doing is you will be putting, if you're going to set up a bank account, it'll be in the name of you as trustee for Freddie. And that the income derived from that bank account will form part of your assessable income until you gift that to him in 18 years' time or in 20 years' time, whenever you guys deem fit.
Absolutely. That's a good way to start. So I'm setting up his account. I'm going to do a high interest savings account to start as like the safety net, just a bit of accessibility until we need it. And then I'm going to add a bit of money every quarter, and then a portfolio of shares held in trust for him as a beneficiary. Are the sale of shares and interest income taxed at my rate, which you've just explained? What is the most efficient tax structure that I'm setting up for Freddie's future funds?
Look, I think holding the funds in your personal name as trust for, like a simple bare trust, is the most efficient structure and the most efficient way of doing things. You'll be paying tax on that yourself. And realistically, if you're going into growth stocks, they're stocks that don't pay high dividends, which means the income and the tax impact on that won't be huge for you over the course of the next 18 to 20 years whilst you're building this portfolio up for him.
With the portfolio, when I hand it over to him at 18 years old, How is he taxed? What's the CGT implications? All of that.
No, look, he won't. He's only going to be taxed on that when he ultimately sells those shares. So it's going to be very important that you keep documents for the next 18 to 20 years whilst you're building this portfolio up of the cost of these shares, so that he can determine what his capital gain or loss, and hopefully it won't be a loss because you're such a great stock picker, what the capital gain will be in 18 or 20 years or even 30 years time when he decides to sell these things to put a deposit down on a property or whatever he wants to do with it.
Absolutely. Now, when we get the 5K in Freddie's account, that's when I'm going to move it over to shares.
Yeah.
Is that strategic?
Is that strategic? Absolutely it is. Look, I suppose you know better than anyone. With $5,000, you can put that into an ETF, or you can, it's a substantial sum to invest in a particular share or whatever, and grow the portfolio strategically from that position.
Why does investing in high dividend paying stocks or ETFs work against us in the long run?
Look, you've got 18 years to focus on growth. And so what you want is shares that are going to provide you with that growth. You don't want the income from these, because you're obviously going to be taxed on these, the dividends and the income on these shares every single year. So what you want is something that's got prospects of high growth, and a sort of like a low dividends that it's going to be passing through each year. So the tax impact is not felt by you and your partner whilst this portfolio is growing.
Yeah. Are there any other tax implications or risks that we should be aware of when building future funds for kids?
At some point in time, you're going to gift this to the child, and at some point in time, Freddie will partner up with someone, and gifting a substantial sum of money can become an issue if that relationship breaks down in some time in the future. So you just got to be mindful about those sorts of things too.
That's very good advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tas.
No
You're
problem.
absolutely appreciated.
You're very welcome.